Just when you think there's not enough MMA news to do 2 MMA live chats in a week, the MMA gods just give us some more. And we have plenty of news to talk about today. Today I'm joined, not as always, but it could be almost as always, by Jason Hartley from MMA On Point. Jason, how are you today?
What's up, man? I'm feeling good. I haven't even told you this yet, but tonight I'm going to see Joey Coco Diaz in Nashville. Yeah, he's performing at Zany's. So I'm in a pretty good mood right now.
I'd love to see Joey Diaz, but I don't think he tours that much overseas. I'm pretty sure he sticks to the States.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. I don't think he really makes his way over there. But I did get to see him once in Indianapolis when I lived there. And my God, was he hilarious. So yeah. I'm super excited about the show tonight.
Definitely do. Look, I'm looking forward to seeing more Joey Diaz. Hopefully he gets some like Netflix specials or something like what Joe Rogan done. But funny dude. A couple of things that we can talk about today. We can talk about Tony Ferguson getting on the UFC 229 card against Anthony Pettis, and a lot of other things, and especially just ask us questions in the chat. This is what this live chat is all about. You asking us questions, and I can see a couple of messages in the chat now. Just keep them all coming in. If you're listening on audio, check us out on YouTube, because that's where you can find us. I don't know what that was. Jason just cheered. Is that about the comments?
I just saw Rafael Schaefer.
Rafael.
The Brazilian badass is here.
The Brazilian one himself. So ask us some questions there, and then we can talk about everything. But I want to start with Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis. That was announced, I believe it was yesterday or late last night. Really open. What's your thoughts on the fight immediately? Your immediate thoughts when you saw the announcement of this?
Oh my God, yeah, I'm going to the fight now officially.
Did that do it for you?
Yeah. We lucked out. I won't get into the details, but yeah, so that's made the show that much better because, having Derek Lewis versus Volkov is a great fight. I'm stoked about that, but it's not really quite one of those undercard fights that just gets me totally going, especially after Derek Lewis's last fight. So when I saw that on there, it's just like, thank you, MMA gods, 100%. This is the kind of the undercard fight, not really undercard, but in terms of and in relativity to the main event, but it's what we needed to bolster that main card. So it's a phenomenal fight. I'm really looking forward to it, and it also makes sense to have this fight on this card. I love when the UFC do things like this, because it's almost like when Khabib was on the last Conor card. I think that's right. I think he was on the undercard. Yeah, he was on the undercard, and then he won, and he done that little promo with Joe Rogan saying, "Give me the belt. Where's the chicken?" Which was great. Like, it's brilliant. I just love the way he says that. So good.
It's brilliant. I just think they could have made it even better if they put the GOAT Artem Lobov on the card as well, just to keep the trend of kind of everyone involved. And obviously, Ferguson wasn't involved in the incident, but he's involved in that kind of trio of potential champions. But brilliant move by the UFC. I love the fight.
Yeah, he just as easily would have been there when Conor was. I guess it probably wouldn't have happened. Then again, no, it probably would have, because, the entire reason was Khabib's whole confrontation with Artem, and Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight there. So he potentially could have been inside of that fan if he didn't have that freak accident tripping over a cable, which is just nuts. But yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And a lot of people are already starting to say that this actually kind of hurts the Diaz fight, gives him more room to kind of be mad, because now what they've done is they've essentially set up. I don't think if Pettis wins, I don't think he deserves a title shot. But then again, he'd be beating Tony Ferguson, which is insane.
That's the thing.
So you could make the argument that whoever wins that fight gets the title shot, but then you've got that all-important Poirier versus Diaz fight. And a lot of people are already starting to say this is screwing over Diaz, which is a credible argument. It's pretty much now put it down to, okay, that for sure was the number one contenders event, the Diaz versus Poirier fight. And so now this adds in this wrinkle of Tony Ferguson, the guy who literally just got stripped of the belt because of a freak injury. Yeah. And you could say, yeah, he pulled out of the fight 2 times with Khabib, but Khabib did the same. They're 2-2 of pulling out of fights with each other. So he didn't do anything wrong. He just kind of lost his belt because of a freak accident. So you could easily make the case, if he destroys Pettis and just totally knocks him out cold, or just does something crazy like he normally does, you could very easily make the case that he deserves the title shot. But I think if Diaz wins, and he does something overly impressive, that especially if Conor wins too, it's going to be very, very hard for the UFC to just be like, yeah, we're not going to do kind of the UFC fight of the century is what I think that would be if Conor wins and Diaz wins. But this fight could just as easily end up being the winner of Khabib Conor.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going to get to some of the comments and questions in the chat, because a lot of people have opinions on this fight. Otto Roadrunner said, does the UFC hate Pettis? Tony's going to destroy him, not at the same level. Do you agree with Otto Roadrunner here, or do you think that this is a good thing for Pettis? This is a big opportunity for Pettis to get a huge win on a huge card against a big name. And as you said, a lot of people wouldn't say that Pettis is deserving of a title fight, but if he defeats Tony Ferguson on this card in particular, man, that lines him up right for a title fight.
Yeah, especially if he does it impressively. This is something Boss Rutan would say, I think 5 and 6 years after he was retired. They would ask him, oh, if you were to fight Fedor, this is in like 2006 or 2007. He did end up coming back for like one other fight. But people asked him, if you were to ever face the last emperor, would you win? And he would always respond the same way. He's like, because I'm a fighter, I'm always going to say yes. Yeah. And I imagine that's Pettis' mindset going into this Ferguson fight. He's amped for this opportunity. Feels like he's being given a golden ticket to the title shot, despite only being on a one fight win streak. And he lost to Poirier, mind you, last. So, and it was a rib injury, so it was kind of weird there too, but he lost, So if he's basically getting graced a title shot if he can win against Tony Ferguson, whereas you could argue he needs to climb the ladder a bit more. So I actually think it's really good for Pettis.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. What's up with Kevin Lee? I believe Kevin Lee was talking about getting a fight with Pettis on this card, and then possibly being like a late replacement if something happens to Conor or Khabib. Was that not right?
I personally haven't heard that, but that's brilliant on his part, you know, because, if he ends up getting a second chance at Tony Ferguson without staff this time, hopefully. That would be tremendous for him. And, he did really well in that fight despite that. And you never know what Ferguson had behind the scenes, too. They always say,
oh, no, did we lose
one
him?
of those.
Oh, he's back. He's back. Oh, he's not back.
Sound cut out. I'm hearing you. I'm
good.
hearing you.
I'm hearing you now. You're back.
Okay, cool. But I think basically what I was just kind of getting at is, if Lee gets this opportunity, it's nothing but good for him. So if he's training in the wings, who else is doing that right now for the 175?
Usman.
Yeah, Usman. Yeah. So if he's doing something similar to that, it could be a huge opportunity for him. I just hope that if he's in some of agreement with the UFC, that he's getting compensated if he's going to show up on weight and do his weight cut and all that kind of stuff, and doesn't just totally do all this pro bono,
Yeah. So. A couple of housekeeping things I want to get to, because I didn't do it at the start because that can put people off. I don't like doing it too early because people are like, oh, fuck this guy, I'm getting out of here. But we will continue to talk about this fight and these fighters, because there's a shit ton of comments right now about this fight in the comments section. Right. But if you can't share this, do it now, because we can get more people in and get more comments and watch me struggle trying to get through the comments, which is always funny. But you can share it on Reddit, you can share it on Facebook, Twitter. I think we tweeted it out, so you can go retweet that. And we got a few nice comments this week about the show. A lot of people finding us and saying, hey, what's up with the low views? Why aren't more people listening to it? And it's always cool getting those kind of comments, because, it's just nice. And the reason is, we need more people to share. We need more people to get out there. There's a certain thing about me saying to people, oh, come listen to my show, it's great, I promise, versus you who aren't involved in the show saying, this is actually pretty good, go check it out. So that always does help. And check out Jason's channel as well. Jason made a great video about UFC versus Pride. The music was this I guess. And he got some backlash, I think, over that, because he hated on Face the Pain, our favourite song ever.
No apologies, man. I am proud of that video. Actually, it got a shout out on the MMA Hour, which is pretty dope. Yeah, very excited about that. But I maybe need to cool it a little bit on the super opinionated videos for a while, because I had the greatest fighters of all time, which is going to be controversial no matter what. And then the Nate Diaz video. So I'm going to cool it just a little bit.
For what it's worth, I completely agree. The Pride music is way better than Face the Pain.
Oh my God, yeah.
Although, back in the day when I was a kid, or when I was younger, and Face the Pain came on, I liked it back in the day. Like 90s, 2000s, that kind of era.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where nu metal was kind of cool,
Yeah.
you know?
I was a
had
Linkin
the
Park
Chocolate
fan.
Starfish.
Yeah.
I
Limp Bizkit.
had one of the Limp Bizkit albums. There was even a point where, dare I say, I actually liked Disturbed. It was awful.
Nice.
But
Nice.
no one's commenting on this, so I'm sure we're boring everyone.
Yeah. Tony is Rafael Schaefer, the Brazilian one himself. Tony is an animal.
Yes.
How the fuck did he recover so quickly? That's one of the talking points around this fight, is that Tony Ferguson, I believe, pulled out from that fight around April, and it is now late August, and he's returning in October. Seems like a crazy quick turnaround for the type of injury that he got, apparently, by tripping over the wire, wasn't it? Weird.
Yeah.
But Tony's a weird guy. I'm guessing he just has these weird medical, I don't know what you'd even call it. It's weird.
To quote Diaz, they're all on steroids. I'm just kidding. I don't really know if you can necessarily say steroids are the reason, but I've heard of people actually recovering. He had I believe it was an MCL. So I've heard of people within 6 months recovering from an ACL, which is a bunch worse. So I don't know. I mean, it's entirely in the realm of possibility that, you know, he had a few months, but the question would be, is that 100% Tony Ferguson coming back?
That's the question.
I'm trying to remember, it was 223. Was that March or April? I'm getting it mixed up. No, that was April.
It was April.
It was April. Yeah. Because Tom was in town for that, of all things, and we were trying to work while he was in town, and then all this crazy stuff was going on, and we couldn't do any work. We were literally just like glued to Twitter.
Yeah.
It was insane. But yeah.
So not that impressive is what you're saying. It's not that
It's
impressive.
definitely. I mean, if people can recover from an ACL in 6 months, which is on the rare end of things, then it's conceivable, but still impressive by all means. So yeah, not saying it's not impressive.
Yeah. What else do we have about this fight? Let me see. El Chapo won. Otto responding to Otto Roadrunner. Conor hates Tony. LOL. Well, Tony did call him McNuggets, which is a devastating trash talk piece by Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, it's so lame. You know, I use this example over and over. It's like if you were to start calling BJ Penn ballpoint to make fun of his last name sounding like a pen. It's just like, it's not clever. It's just really, really, it's almost funny that he thinks it's funny. It's like the self-aware stack, you know, when somebody says something cheesy because they know it's cheesy.
Yeah.
It's almost like that, but he doesn't know it's cheesy, so it's actually not working for him. And I love Tony Ferguson. He's just, it's kind of like when Max Holloway was doing the whole, like, where's Jose Waldo thing or whatever.
It's kind of lame as well.
You don't force the trash talk.
No.
If you don't have anything, just don't do it. Yeah. You know, just back off. You know, there's no reason to try to make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
So,
El Chapo won. If Nate and Conor wins, it's going to be a trilogy between Conor and Nate. Do you agree with that?
I'm hearing a weird, like, echo chamber in the background. Like, it was like it was almost like a wind tunnel. It's strange. It's gone now. But sorry, what was your question?
That was a police car outside.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Dude, it literally sounded just like a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It was that faint.
Funny.
But yeah. What were you saying? Sorry.
Nate versus Conor. If Conor and Nate both win, is a trilogy fight happening?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, unless the Nate Poirier fight is the most boring fight ever, and people are booing at the end of it, and even then it would be a stretch. You know, like even then I could still see the UFC just being like, no, this is, the stars have aligned and the MMA gods never work together. They never deem that the fight that makes the most sense ever actually happens. So I would be shocked, especially if Diaz wins and Conor wins, that they don't set up that match. And if they both lose, they're going to get the matchup too, I believe.
Yeah. I think I think if Nate wins and Conor loses, they'll still make the match. I think the only way they don't make it is if Nate loses and Conor wins. I really do. I think that's the only situation where they don't make that match.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would have to be this weird kind of mix-up of, like Conor probably wouldn't want to face him off of a loss. And Diaz, I mean, he might still want to fight Conor if Conor loses and he still wins. I don't know. That's kind of a tough one because, I mean, from his shoes, he always talks about how the belts are a fantasy. You know, that's kind of been Diaz's kind of like statement ever since he beat Conor. So he might be okay with just fighting Conor again because of the big payday. Or he might say, screw that, I'm going to go for the title, but he won't make as much money. So it's kind of depends on what his key motivation is after this fight. And he said so many times he doesn't like fighting. Like Nate and Nick have said that a lot. So I think they're in it for the payday.
Yeah. I don't know if you have a prediction on the fight, but there is some comments in the chat talking about how people think the fight is going to go, as in Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis. Rafael Schaefer said, it all depends on how Tony comes back. If he comes back just as strong as before, the injury, it's going to be a tough night for Pettis. I know people are saying stylistically it's not that bad. How do you see the fight going itself? Do you think this is a bad matchup for Pettis? Because Pettis seems to have trouble with guys who pursue takedowns, who try to clinch up against the cage. Not necessarily guys who will probably want to strike with him, or at least strike with him for some time. So do you think it's necessarily that bad of a matchup for Anthony Pettis?
Well, not to say that Ferguson doesn't have a lot of technique, but he'll absolutely brawl with you. Yeah, and that's what they always say to do with a technical striker. You know, you want to brawl with them and take them out of their game. And when you think of Pettis, he's a tactician, somebody that has these tremendous taekwondo kicks that, you know, Joe Rogan always talks about how they need no setup. They just kind of come out of nowhere. Don't lose your mic. But it's one of those kind of things where it's so funny. I think that it will stay on the feet, but I don't know. It really just kind of depends. You know, if it goes to the ground, they're both actually really strong on the ground. Really strong bottom games from either guy too. You know, I mean, that's how Lee got beat. He got beat with a triangle. And what was it? Oliveira? What did Oliveira get beat with? That Pettis beat him with? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember exactly what it was. But we can find it soon. Or somebody in the chat tell us.
It was a guillotine. It was a guillotine. So he did get that from the bottom. So yeah, I think it's one of these kind of things where they're really evenly matched on paper. And I don't want to say which one is tougher. I kind of want to lean towards Tony Ferguson, but that's such a I don't know. You can't really just be like, oh yeah, he's for sure tougher. I'm
kind of with you on that. I think in terms of style wise, I don't see it being like that difficult of a match for Pettis in terms of style. I'm not saying it's not a difficult fight.
It's a great style matchup.
Yeah, like if you put like 10 fighters in a row, and you have Tony Ferguson there, and you have Pettis say which one, and you have the likes of, I don't know, some wrestlers there, like a Gray Maynard type or a Chad Mendes type, those type of, because he's going to go for the Tony Ferguson who he knows he's going to get a chance against. But, you know, people say there's levels to the game. Is Tony Ferguson just that level higher at this point in his career? Maybe. Pettis hasn't looked that great as of recently, apart from his last fight, which was pretty good. But it's a really good fight.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. He's been off and on. You know, he's been kind of winning one to lose one type kind of thing. So, you know, this would obviously be a huge chance to kind of break that. He had the 3 losses back to back. Then he had, actually, let's just look at this. So he had Oliveira. Then he lost to Holloway. No shame in that loss. Then he won against Jim Miller, and then he lost against Poirier. No shame in that loss. And then he beat Michael Chiesa. And Michael Chiesa missed weight there. But Michael Chiesa is an incredible win to have in your recent win column just because he's that good. Yeah,
I think Chiesa's going up to 170, right? I think he's finished at 155 after that weight cut. I'm pretty sure he said that, but I'm not 100% certain. But that sounds right. Yeah. Moving off the Pettis and Ferguson thing for a minute, because there was a question up above about this weekend's card. So it was about the Barberina Ellenberger fight. Right. Dylan Penkert said, sorry if this has already been covered, but is Ellenberger a great betting option versus Barberena? Seems like decent odds considering Barberena isn't that dangerous. And Otto Roadrunner said, seriously, that guy is a Wolverine. Oh God, that's completely... No, El Chapo said, oh God, I'm messing this up completely. Unemployed Mario Yamazaki said, Barberena is a beast, don't underestimate him. We covered this a little bit on the last live chat, me and Noel, and I think Barberena wins this fight. I don't know what the odds are, to be honest. If the odds are huge, maybe take a crack at Ellenberger, but I think right now in their careers, Ellenberger's coming down. Barberena is one of those tough guys who it's hard to get him out of there, and Ellenberger's chin isn't looking so great lately, so I'd lean towards Barberena. But if Ellenberger is huge odds, maybe he still has the power to knock anybody out.
Yeah, and dude, let's not forget, Brian Barberena beat Sage Northcutt. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think that we've been looking at, I mean, Ellenberger's been on a skid for how long now?
A long time.
Yeah, and so he was one of these guys that was really at the top of the division for, a few years, and then all of a sudden it just kind of started to hit this decline. It would be nice, I think a lot of people would like to see him return to form and get a nice win, but it does always kind of seem like, and dude, a lot of people have been showing the Mike Perry elbow this week, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because his fight's coming up, but when you look at that elbow, it doesn't look like a massive elbow. And that's just kind of my thought generally on what you've seen from Ellenberger lately. So I don't know if his chin's quite still there anymore. And I know that sounds really harsh. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I like Ellenberger plenty. Yeah. But I do think he's on the tail end of his career. Brian Barberena is a mid-carder at best at this point. So, again, I'm not saying that to be disparaging, but he just lost against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is rising up to the top himself. And he lost to Colby. So he's clearly not the top of the division. It's a good matchup for Ellenberger, but it's a do or die match for Ellenberger. And I think it's really likely this is his last fight if he loses.
I just pulled up his record, and to be honest, it doesn't look great. It really doesn't look great as of late. Since 2013, July of 2013, he only has 2 wins over Josh Koscheck, who is, that's an aging Josh Koscheck in 2015, and Matt Brown. Again, coming to the end of his career, Matt Brown in 2016. Yeah. And then amongst all those fights, he has a TKO loss to Robbie Lawler, which was pretty devastating. A spinning hook kick against Stephen Thompson. Remember that one? That was devastating as well. Jorge Masvidal, Mike Perry, and Ben Saunders in his last 3 fights has finished him with strikes. So, man, doesn't look great for Jake Ellenberger.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him go back to his winning ways because he was just a monster back in the day. But the indications just don't seem to show that. And I'd love for him to surprise us. But I'm with you as of right now in saying that it's probably going to be Barberena, even though Barberena is not necessarily the top of the division. He's a solid mid-carder. Yeah. Is what he is.
Yeah, so. I just think that he beats Jake Ellenberger at this point. Rafael Schaefer, Ryzen 13. Love how they dropped the whole card at once. It's so juicy. I know it's probably impossible for the UFC to do that, but wouldn't it be juicy? Juicy to drop a whole card at once. It would. That would be excellent if you got like a whole rake of fights at once. But did you see the Ryzen 13 card? They announced it, I think, either late last night or early this morning. It has some really good fights. The one I'm looking forward to mostly is, unfortunately, it's a kickboxing match. I wish they'd done it on the MMA rules, but it's Horiguchi versus Tenshin. Tenshin is a decorated kickboxer out of Japan, I believe. Very, very talented against Horiguchi, who's been on absolute tear since leaving the UFC and in the UFC. He came off a win in the UFC. Yeah. But there's some other fights like Crow Cop versus Martinez, Darren Cruikshank against Diego Brandao. That's a fight that could have happened back in the day. What's your thoughts on Ryzen releasing pretty much the whole card at once? It's kind of cool to see.
I wonder. I wonder if that's just something that's kind of happened here, or we're, kind of people that are closer to the Japanese MMA scene, were they kind of receiving this information in the typical way that we do here? Is it just that we're that disconnected? Yeah. I don't really know. But, I mean, in terms of it, it's nice that they can do that. I just think it's so much harder with all the parties involved for the UFC to just be like, this is what the card is. And then having so many fighters on the roster, I think probably one of the most understated, worst parts about having kind of what, everyone refers to as the oversaturated MMA market, especially with the UFC right now, is that if you aren't feeling 100%, it's not that big of a deal if you pull out of a fight. So you can just hop on one 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later if you want to. Whereas Ryzen, this is Ryzen 13. How long has Ryzen been around now? The UFC is doing like 40 events in a year.
Yeah, it's insane.
So they more than trump that in just 1 year. So I think for the UFC, because it's such an ever-evolving ecosystem of these people being able to jump from one card to the next if they get injured, that sort of thing, I think it's very, very difficult for them to just be like, all right, we've got the card, because by the time they announce it, somebody's injured and they're on the next card, or maybe they just haven't quite come to agreements with somebody else. So I think it's a bit easier with Ryzen when they're like, okay, we're doing like 3 or 4 events in a year. This is the next card. So, and I do think it's a great card, by the way. I love Horiguchi. Crow Cop, it's nice to see him on there. I don't know too much about Martinez personally, but there's some decent names on there. Good to see Manel Cape on there again. Andy Nugent. It's nothing big for me. This isn't like an earth-shattering card, but it's good to see some big names on a card for Ryzen. So
yeah. I hope Tension has a few more MMA fights, because I think he has a big future in MMA if he wants it. Harry Dunn, McNuggets, genius or poetry? It's like it's like a motto to live by. Neither.
Yeah.
But NB said, you guys take him way too seriously. That's just Tony. Let him be Tony. Dude's weird as fuck. That's who he is. I completely agree with that. He thinks
the point is he's telling a joke over and over that's not funny.
Yeah.
So it's like, just stop telling the joke. It's just like, I don't know, a bad comic. You're going to be like, oh, this comic sucks.
Yeah.
It's not that you're taking him seriously. It's just that the joke sucks.
Unless he's
so
like secretly like Andy Kaufman. And that's the joke.
Nice reference. He could be like Andy Kaufman. I don't know.
He's playing a game.
Maybe he's more like that other character that Andy Kaufman used to play, and then somebody played him after he died still. That loud, obnoxious guy with a beard.
The fat guy, is it? That guy?
Yeah. Maybe he's like that, because nobody actually liked that guy.
Yeah.
And I like Tony Ferguson, but, not saying he had the funniest stand-up.
Yeah. Otto Roadrunner said, any thoughts on Costa Romero, on the Costa Romero fight, guys? I think it's the fight I'm most excited for outside any marketing ever. Look, is it actually? It's definitely happening, isn't it, Costa Romero?
It got moved. It's indefinitely moved. Like, they're tentatively trying to keep it together for early 2019 is what I'm thinking, or late, maybe December. But it's gone. It's scrapped for now, and they're trying to keep it together for another event.
What's your thoughts on that fight?
Oh my God, that's like a brawler's wet dream. Yeah, that's juicy right there. The two guys that are definitely taking steroids in the UFC just clashing, dude. It's so great.
Just comes out right with it.
I'm kidding, but they're the ones that definitely get accused of that more than anybody else probably in the entire UFC right now. So I don't know. I just think that's an incredible fight. You're literally probably the two guys outside of like an Ngannou, or if Anthony Johnson were to come back, that can brawl and knock somebody out with any punch at any time. Those are probably the two best to put together in any division right now, with just that incredible punching power. Like, it's the perfect matchup. And I think, dude, I don't know yet. I don't know who's going to win that fight. And I just hope to God it still happens.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument, though, that maybe they could bring on Costa, Borrachina, whatever way you want to say it, a little bit slower. Romero is a guy who has been floating around that title challenging area for a long time, and Costa hasn't really reached there. So I think you can make the argument that maybe it could be a little bit too soon for Costa. I wouldn't rule Costa out winning it, But I just think that maybe you could have given someone a little bit lower level. I don't think it's the fight that you have to make right now, if you get me. I don't think, it falls through in whenever they wanted to do it, December, say, and they're like, oh, we need to make this matchup, so we're going to hold on to it for a later card. I don't really think that's needed. I think there's plenty of matchups out there for Costa and for Romero as well. But it is a great fight. I'm not saying it's not. But, it could be one of them.
Seeing the way he beat Uriah Hall, and of course Uriah Hall is kind of hit or miss, you know. But Uriah Hall, I thought, was doing some great stuff in that fight. He was really firing back, and he wasn't giving up until it was just too much for him. I just really thought it was that impressive to where it's like I could definitely see the argument where maybe he's not ready for Romero. But there's also only one other way to find out, because who naturally would you give him right now? I'm not sure. Maybe the winner of Luke Rockhold Weidman, but that even feels too far. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough place because he's clearly hit that echelon where it's like, okay, he's ready for a top 10 opponent. Israel Adesanya, I thought, made the most sense. After, they even competed on the same weekend. They would be ready at the same time. But, Israel got Brunson, which is a good fight for him. So it feels like, so to your credit, I think they're bringing along Israel just a little bit slower. And then
different way. They're
just going straight for the big fight with Borchina or Costa, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But
similar to the fighting styles, bit of philosophy for you there. Israel is more of that guy who's going to make reads. He's going to try beat you with technique, whereas Borchina is the guy who's going to blast forward and push through, get through the barrier and knock you out. But yeah, it is a great fight, to be fair. Harry Dunn. This is a comment, but it's actually something I wanted to talk about because a lot of people have different opinions about this, and I have a certain opinion about it, and I want to hear yours. But if Khabib falls out for whatever reason, do you really think McGregor's going to face someone like Ferguson? So your first thing, your thoughts on that, but also, what's your thoughts on these huge fights like McGregor versus Khabib, having a stand-in or like a standby fighter to come in last minute to basically save the event? In a way, I completely get it, and if you're a Conor McGregor fan or you're a Khabib fan, you still want to see them fight, no matter who it's against. But from like a business perspective, you've put all your promotion into this one fight coming up, and then you just have somebody on standby to say, don't mind it, let's bring in some guy. And it's not just some guy, it's going to be an excellent fight as well. Whoever you would fight, they're going to have somebody good there. But what's your thoughts on that kind of late notice thing and these huge matchups? Like, you don't see it in boxing at all.
Yeah.
But you see it in MMA all the time.
Well, it's a pretty appropriate question to be asking, considering Tony Ferguson was supposed to be on the 223 card that had famously 4 different guys that were supposed to fight Khabib. So it's an appropriate, question to be asking about it. In my opinion, it can go either way. On the UFC's end, it seems like the obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
How many of your cards fall out now? So you might as well that's part of the UFC's ecosystem now. People fall out for whatever reason, and they just need to have somebody that can stand in. The other side of that, are you actively encouraging it in the process? Like, oh, well, if you're not 100%, just don't worry about it. Somebody else is ready. Somebody else will take your spot. And you could obviously see the stand-in falling out too, So there's a million ways this could still go wrong. It's not a perfect fail-safe. But it does seem like the obvious thing is, okay, how many main events have you lost? And just the past few years, like when Holloway fought Pettis, actually, that was brought up to being the main event after it was supposed to be Cormier versus Anthony Johnson too. That ended up getting moved until March of that next year. So, it just happens so often. It's so part of everything. It just seems like the obvious thing of, you got this massive fight. Would you rather have all these people demanding refunds, which they're probably still going to do anyway, but to a lesser degree, if, say, Conor still stays on the card and fights somebody else?
Yeah.
So it's I think it makes a lot of business sense. You're setting up a contingency plan. It's like having a lawyer on retainer. Yeah. God forbid you ever have to use that lawyer for any kind of case, whatever it might be, but you got that lawyer in the wings anytime something goes wrong. So same with these fighters.
I'd love to hear how they negotiate this in the bout agreement, because like if I'm a fighter and I'm going in there to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov, say if I'm Conor McGregor, and they say, well, you know, you're going to fight him, but we have Tony Ferguson waiting in the wings just in case this falls out, and then we'll just slot Tony Ferguson in there. It'd be grand. He'll still have a fight. I'd wonder what Conor thinks. And Conor seems to be that guy historically that will take any kind of fight. You know, he took Chad Mendes on late notice and stuff, but he also took Nate Diaz on late notice, and he lost that one. So has his mind changed? Is he a different type of guy now? Will he say, maybe I won't take that fight? I don't think so. But I wonder, like, some guys are different. Like, I remember Khabib said that he wouldn't, I can't remember exactly his words, but he said he wouldn't take some late notice fight in a certain situation if he was champion or something. I can't remember what it was, but he obviously took the other one, which to get the title against Aloy Quinta. But I just wonder how this comes about in bout agreements. You know, like, you have this guy in front of you, but yeah, we're going to slot somebody in if possible. Do you get more money because of this, or I don't know? It's a weird one.
Yeah, I'm sure Khabib's not worried about Conor falling out, so he's probably not also training for Ferguson. Although I think his plan is straightforward and simple enough from Khabib's end that it probably wouldn't change that much anyway. But for Conor, he knows Khabib's fast, pulling out of fights or having, you know, just not making weight, whatever it might be. That it is a strange place to be in. I don't think that, despite the issue with Nate Diaz, I personally don't think he learned his lesson. I don't think he thought there was a lesson to be learned other than change your schedule, change your training regimen. Because I mean, he famously talked about how he and John Kavanagh would literally walk in as one was leaving, type kind of thing, and they got too lackadaisical. I think that's the thing he learned, was to change his training practices. But he feels he can beat any fighter at any time. So I don't think he's learned that he's necessarily beatable on his best day. I think he thinks he can beat anybody on his best day. It takes the right fighter is what I think it takes. And I imagine there's a hefty bonus that's thrown in there. It's like, okay, we're arranging a contingency fight. If that happens, you now all of a sudden have to drop everything that you've been working so hard for and focus on this other guy on short notice, which you've only kind of been doing. You know, it's in the back of your mind. You might have to fight this guy. But now all of a sudden you have to train entirely different from a guy that's essentially a wrestler 100% versus a guy that's going to try to break your bones with his bones. I mean, he's going to take a shin kick. He's going to kick you with his shins to break your shins. You know, like, that's the kind of fighter Tony Ferguson is. So, again, coming back around, it takes the right type of fighter, I think, and not all fighters are going to agree to it.
Yeah. El Chapo won. So this could be difficult. I need to get through this. But he said, Robert, my bad MMA mat. So a bit of MMA mat for you. MMA mats, as we'd say over here. Conor beats Khabib.
Mats.
Nate beats Dustin. Tony beats Pettis. Then Conor fights Nate. Tony fights Lee. Winner fights Conor, which will be Lee. Interesting.
Oh, man.
So it's all mapped out.
Yeah, I mean, credit to you for trying to do the MMA math. That's interesting. Conor beats Khabib. Nate beats Dustin. Tony beats Pettis. Then Conor fights Nate. Sorry, I'm just digesting it because it's so much. These are all obviously very plausible. Oh, man. It's so hard to make a prediction on these. Like Nate versus Dustin. God, that's such a hard one to just be like, Nate's going to win that fight. It's such a hard one to say Dustin's going to win that fight.
If this happens, we'll come back here to this here live chat and give this guy a star. Did you get that in school? When you were in school, did you get like a gold star?
Yeah, when you're like 5 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it till we were like 15. It was great. No, I'm joking.
I was like, whoa.
That's how we do it over in Ireland.
Still wearing diapers and everything.
Yeah. Anybody know how Till's weight cut is going? And then that was Harry Dunn. And Raphael Schaefer said he looks lean on Insta. I haven't heard personally. I don't know how it's going. I'm sure he'll be fine this time. I hope. But the last one was pretty bad. But did you see anything about his weight cut?
No, I haven't seen anything about it. I mean, he's definitely started it. That's for sure. You know, a lot of guys are, you know, kind of preparing for, obviously the hardest part of it will be next week. But man, that would be, I think for him to miss weight again, I think it would have to be kind of a crazy situation, although he didn't jump into it. But essentially what I took from the situation last time, there was essentially a family emergency, and you can only give that so much leeway. You don't want to give fighters too much room for excuses, but considering the way he handled everything, and he kind of didn't even want to take the room for the excuse, and he was just like, it's my fault, all these kinds of things, I'm kind of willing to give him some credit that he's not going to have that much trouble on this one. It would really have to be an extreme outside circumstance for him to miss weight. I think he'll make weight just fine. He might look like death, but I think he'll make weight just fine.
El Chapo 1. Conor roasts Khabib's father on Instagram. Did you see this?
I did see that.
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny. It's typical Conor McGregor. Just goes for the throat straight away.
Yeah, what do you call him? Like a quivering coward. And it showed that picture of him. Pretty interesting stuff. I mean, it's just more mental warfare is what it is. And I wish we were getting a little bit more press ahead of it. And my understanding is we basically won't see them together until the week of the fight, which is a bit of a bummer. But then again, it makes that week of the fight that much better. So I guess for now, the Instagram call-outs will have to do.
Yeah, so I wonder what Khabib's rebuttal will be. But yeah, it's a kind of an interesting debate on whether you want this kind of long build-up like we had with Aldo versus McGregor, which was great. Like you can't say it wasn't great. That World Tour was amazing. Or something like this where it's really close, really short. They're not going to be together. So the first time we're going to probably really see them together might be the weigh-ins or like a pre-fight presser week of, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, and they might change that. There might be another opportunity, but I doubt it, you know, especially with the kind of person that Conor's kind of turned into, especially before his last UFC fight with Nate, where he didn't want to do a ton of pressers and stuff like that. Maybe they'll do one other press conference, but I think it's going to be relegated to the week of. And it's really not that long, though, when you think about it. But I do like to kind of have these little snippets coming in because it's like the little breadcrumb trail that you kind of follow. And I feel like we're getting like little specks, which is stupid. You know, it's all about the fight. None of that stuff really matters, but except to the two fighters. Yeah. But yeah.
Ryan Mulligan. Harry, I imagine Till will be a little bit more disciplined this time around. Mentioned he wasn't going to be cutting from 218 pounds this time, which will certainly help. Yeah, that'll certainly help. Do you have any fear that Till will miss weight? And just as I'm going to ask you this question, I can still hear you, but I don't know if you can see this, but there's a light coming from up here and it's going right in my face and it's blocking me. So I'm going to do the most unprofessional thing in the world. I'm going to get up and I'm going to close my blinds a little bit but I can still hear you. So I want your answer. But do you have any fear that Till will miss weight coming into this one against Woodley?
Oh, man, I'm trying to think of who you look like right now. It's one of those old fighters. He used to have that skin condition that went away. Scott Jorgensen. Scott Jorgensen's here, everybody.
Hey,
anyway, yeah, there you go. It's kind of crazy that just cleared out through his career. But I personally, kind of like I was saying earlier, I mean, I think it would take an extreme circumstance. And I think after that last fight, knowing that's his chief criticism, I think that he's acutely aware of that. And I think he's essentially focused all of his attention on making sure that's there. And yeah, it
hasn't helped. This is great.
Did you try closing the blinds?
Yeah, I did.
Blinds? Yeah.
Didn't work.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree though. We're going to continue with this weird skin condition. Yeah, Scotty Jorgensen, I remember that. It's vitiligo disease. Apparently that's what Michael Jackson had.
Oh, shit.
Apparently, yeah. That's how he turned white. Yeah, I completely agree. I wouldn't have too much fear that Darren Till will miss weight this time around. I think, like, when we spoke to him and stuff, you can tell that he's clearly bothered by the criticisms that he gets over that. And rightly so. Like, he did fuck up, to be fair. He fucked up. Yeah. Especially, he fucked up at home as well on a card that he basically was given in his hometown. It wasn't a good look. So if he misses weight this time, I don't know what the UFC will do, but I wouldn't have too much fear that he will miss weight this time around.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Moyes Audio said McNuggets equals National Lampoon. Does that appear in one of the National Lampoon things, or what's going on here?
Maybe he's referring to the level of quality of humor. Like National Lampoons used to be good.
Yeah, it used to be good. Yeah.
But in the last 20, 25 years, they started. I think the best thing that they put out in the last 20, 25 years is maybe Van Wilder. I'm pretty sure that was them. And they used to do like the Christmas Vacation and all that stuff. And then they just went straight for like nudie comedy. It's like the American Pie brand, but like the cheaper brand with more boobs. It's like less quality comedy and
sounds
more
like
horny teenager stuff. Yeah. Don't watch porn. Watch that.
Yeah, watch that. Yeah, just waste your time. Raphael Schaefer. Yeah, let's just say one thing is for sure. This is a huge step up for Costa in regards to the Yair Romero fight. Yeah, absolutely huge step up for Costa. But I suppose it's one of them situations where, even though I think that maybe they could have brought him on a little bit slower, if he does go in there and beat Yair Romero, man, that is a huge win and puts him right in contention. It kind of reminds me of John Jones in a way when he got that title fight. Remember when he got that title fight? It was kind of like a late notice one because I think
off of Bader.
Yeah. After that one, and he was kind of told, and everyone was kind of like, Jesus, John Jones, he's definitely the future of the sport, but it seems too quick. And then he went in and he absolutely obliterated Shogun, I think it was, and looked great. And now he's John Jones, and he gets up to everything outside the sport, but now he's like one of the biggest stars. So something like that could happen, but yeah, it's a huge step up.
Yeah, and I remember that too, because Joe Rogan walked in the ring and he's like, "Hey, Evans is out. You get the title shot. Do you want it?" And, and he's like crying on the canvas, just like freaking out. And I remember watching that fight and being like, "Is he ready?" And I was a huge Shogun fan because this is like, basically he had his kind of bad debut against Forrest Griffin and then made his resurgence essentially, kind of rebounded from that, got the title, beat somebody nobody was beating, Lyoto Machida. And so I was like, oh, dude, I want Shogun to win. But even in the back of my mind back then, I was like, dude, Jones could take this. And the way he beat everybody moving up to that. And Paulo Costa, I wouldn't say quite has that vibe. I don't think we've seen him face enough opponents yet. He hasn't even headlined an event yet, like Jones, headlined to get to Matt Yushchenko and stuff like that before. And then the Bader fight, Bader was also undefeated. So it was this perfect kind of like apex fight for him to be at as somebody that was moving from kind of a protege, or what's the word I'm looking for, from a prodigy to a contender. Or those aren't the right word. Prospect. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like protege. Total wrong word. Yeah. Made my way there. Just rambled long enough. But yeah, so those two events just kind of like coincided, and it was the perfect timing. Whereas Costa, it does feel like a sizable jump, even though he did beat Uriah Hall, but Uriah Hall has always kind of been a mixed bag. You know what I mean? If it was right after he beat Musasi or something like that, if it was around a time where Uriah Hall was at this peak, then you could easily see the through line to it, as far as, clearly he's ready for that level, but you don't quite get that impression. But you're also excited for it, and you could still see him doing it. It's a bit of a jump, absolutely.
Raphael Schaefer, this is a great comment, one of my favorites of the chat so far. I'll give you that one. What if Romero was clean all along? And what if Nico Montano ragdolls Valentina Shevchenko? Eddie Bravo thinking gif.
We'll look into it. Yeah, that's great.
Romero, he hasn't failed a test. He did kind of fail a test, but then didn't, and then they proved it was a tainted supplement. But what can you say?
It's kind of like the Silva one, where Silva was like, okay, we're not saying you're innocent. We're just saying you were negligent. It's like, it was a tainted supplement, but it's your fault you took it, which is why you still have to serve out your suspension. I think Yoel Romero, in fairness, did get reduced to only about 6 months. So it was shortened. And maybe in his case, maybe it was a little less shady. But, it's kind of like the John Jones one, too, where it's like, wait, so you're just taking, I mean, Silva and John Jones are identical. They're taking sex pills from people they don't know. That's their official story. And like, what? Wait, what?
Imagine your friend said that to you. It's like, yeah. I have these sex pills. Where'd you get them? I just got them off some guy. I'm going to take them tonight. It's like, what? What?
It's like, Jones, you're like 29. What are you talking about? Yeah. Why are you taking boner pills? Like, I'm sure with some of the women he's able to bang, although he is kind of like married-ish. I don't know what's going on.
He's kind of like married.
I don't know what the deal is with him. I don't get the vibe that any of these guys that are at the top of their sport are staying faithful. That's just my opinion. But
yeah, just look at Tiger Woods. Remember that episode of South Park, and they were trying to figure out why Tiger Woods was going with a lot of girls, and they were like, oh, what is it? What is it? And it's money. It's just money. Ryan Mulligan, I think we shouldn't rule out the possibility of a fight with Woodley if Conor beats Khabib. Woodley fighting only a few weeks before against Till if Woodley wins that. Man, I never thought of that, but oh man, that's probably going to happen. I never thought of that. But remember Woodley and Conor had that weird confrontation. I think it was at weigh-ins, was it? And they kind of walked past each other, and for some reason Conor just squared up to him. I don't know what the hell was going on there. And then Woodley kind of tweeted about it or whatever, but man, I never thought about that, but that makes a whole lot of sense. Not that I want to see it, but it makes a whole lot of sense.
Well, this is the first time that I can think of in terms of a UFC fight with Conor. We didn't necessarily have that with Mayweather McGregor, but when you look at all of his fights, especially the beginning, he was always looking towards Aldo. When you look after Aldo, he immediately, I mean, even when he was looking at Aldo, he was looking at the 155 belt. With Diaz, he was looking at the 155 belt after the detour. You know, he was like, I'm still going to go after that. This is the first time we've seen, personally, I think, Conor in the octagon. And it's not necessarily 100% sure where his mindset is at next. It feels like the Diaz fight could be that. And it feels like that would be the logical thing if Diaz wins. But if not, you know, I'm sure we'll hear something fight week of where his mindset is, or he'll at least toss out a few, you know, kind of lines to see where things are. But you might have a better indication than anybody else being so close to SBG. So
no idea. Absolutely. I did always hear that the Nate Diaz fight was still something that was on the table or that they wanted, and he says that in public, so we know that is there. But that's just something that I never thought about. Woodley. Yeah. I think that's really possible, especially if Woodley wins and then Woodley starts calling for it, which would be smart. And Woodley has been looking for these money fights, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people kind of dislike Woodley, or at least they have some issues with Woodley, because he came out and was like, oh, I want these all these money fights. But if he wins this one, he could clearly say, I've just beat Stephen Thompson twice and Darren Till, who a lot of people don't think he's deserving of the title, but he got it and I still fought him. Now give me my money fight. And then if Conor, you know, does his thing, you never know. It's interesting. Yeah,
I mean, when you think about his call out, it was pretty thorough, because they had that squaring up after the weigh-ins where he's like, what's up? And Woodley's like, what's up, man? And then he did an interview, I remember, after that, where he was like, oh, yeah, Conor said something about me being a bitch in the media, but he didn't call me a bitch. And so then you see, this is also when he had his confrontation with Khabib at 205.
Yeah.
He was yelling at him. He was like, you're a bitch. I'm calling you a bitch. Like he listened to that interview, and then he went out of his way to call Woodley a bitch again. It was just insane. So, yeah, I mean, if he's still champion, I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. That Colby Covington fight feels really it needs to happen.
Should happen.
But then again, I mean, if you're Woodley and you want money fights, you're not going to do any better than that. Not even GSP would do better than that.
Yeah. So. Here's the thing: it's like a lot of people are saying that they don't think that'd happen, but Conor going for another belt, that's something that I think he'd really want, and it's something that he spoke about before. He does want to move up and try to get that belt. He talked about it. For Woodley, it makes sense, of course. So I just think on those levels, and the fact that Conor, like I said this as well, like Conor comes back, fights Khabib, the fight that everyone wants him to fight, and if he does win it, he kind of has a free pass to do whatever he wants next, you know, because people will be like, oh, he came back and he fought the guy that everyone said he would never fight. So he kind of has a free pass next time. So it really wouldn't surprise me if that was brought up. It really wouldn't. It's a good show.
Perfect scenario. Pettis wins. which Conor could argue he doesn't deserve a title shot.
Yeah.
Diaz wins. He beats Diaz again. Perfect scenario for Conor is what I'm laying out.
Yeah.
Then who else is there clear that's lined up? Because Tony Ferguson's just lost. Poirier clearly was the guy that was being groomed for that. The guy before that was Eddie Alvarez. He's out of that now, too. So if he beats Nate Diaz, then it would make a pretty clear path for him to ascend up one division. I don't think he necessarily need that to start going for that belt. But it would certainly get the fans behind it a little bit more if there wasn't, like, say, Tony Ferguson wins. And it's like, dude, you've got to fight that guy. And I think that's the reason why Woodley did have that popularity problems, because the day he won the belt, he was on Fox and he was confronted with Wonderboy Thompson. He was like, oh, I want to fight two retired guys. He called out GSP and Nick Diaz, who weren't – Nick Diaz semi-retirement for sure, but GSP wasn't even back yet. And I think that – immediately got the fans on his bad side, because it's like there's literally the number one contender right there, and you're saying you won't fight him, and you're calling out retired guys. It just looks, it's just not a good look.
It reminded me, or at least the Demetrius and Henry Cejudo fight. Great performance by Cejudo. Of course, it was close, but when he called out TJ Dillashaw, it kind of soured it a little bit for me, because I was kind of like, oh man, like you just beat potentially the best fighter of all time, and you can argue that he wasn't, but potentially, he's in the argument.
Sure.
Definitely the best fighter flyweight, 100%, no doubt. And then you say, I'm not going to give him a rematch, and I'm going to go up in weight to try to get another title. I just thought that was a bad look for Cejudo, and I think that, for me, it soured me on it a little bit. Cejudo's still a great fighter, but I think a lot of fans might look back at that and say, you should have just said, if Demetrius wants a rematch, let's do it. But I'd love to kick the shit out of TJ Dillashaw as well. But you should have put that in. You should have put that in.
I thought it was brilliant, because in my opinion, it's like, well, I don't want to get too into politics, but what do politicians do when they get into office? They say, I'm going to be the opposite of the guy you didn't vote for and the guy you didn't like. The same thing for fighters. He got up there and he said, I'm going to do the opposite of what Demetrius Johnson said. And I think he knew he would probably have to fight DJ again. But I think just getting up there and saying that and saying, oh, DJ wouldn't do it? Well, I'll do it. I'll fight the perceived tougher fight. And I think that was pretty brilliant on his part. I think he may fully well have known that fight was going to get shot down and DJ would be the fight. It could still happen. We still don't know what's going to happen next with DJ's injuries. But I thought it was pretty brilliant, in my opinion.
That's a good point. And I get that. I think maybe that he said he was going to go up in weight, and I know the way he framed it and the way he phrased it, it was like, I'm going to go up in weight and give TJ Dillashaw the advantage, but it was really, you want to go up in weight because you want to win a title up in another weight class. Like that's what it is, and you don't want to cut weight. But yeah, I don't know, it soured me a little bit. In terms of the queue for Conor, which is hilarious, it's gas that like Conor just has a queue of fighters behind him. A lot of people think that Woodley isn't in the conversation because these guys are in front. And Rafael Schaefer said GSP, Nate, Tony and Max are all ahead of Woodley. Would you argue any of them? In terms of like logical reasons, we kind of give our reason why we think that Woodley versus Conor could happen. There's a lot of reasons why it could. But do you think, in terms of logic, all those guys are ahead of Woodley?
I would definitely throw GSP back. I know what a lot of Dana White says is smoke and mirrors, but I think he was genuinely pissed when GSP vacated his title. I didn't like that either. Sure. As a fight fan, I'm like, okay, you're the champion and you're outright saying you're not going to defend. And this was before like he decided to vacate the title. Like in the ring, he was very much like, oh, I don't know, we'll see what happens about finding somebody there. It's very clear to me he jumped in, and I love GSP. I'm a huge fan of GSP. I don't think it matters if you like him or not. It's like, this is what I think happens, independent of what I think about him personally. Like, I think he jumped in at the perceived opportune time to fight the easiest fight he could possibly get for a belt at middleweight. I think if it was Yoel Romero, I don't think he would have done it. I think if Anderson Silva, I think there was a good reason he never did that. And I think it's because GSP is smart. GSP knows he's fighting these incredibly powerful guys that are much bigger than him, that his wrestling just simply won't hold a candle to. Like for Bisping, of all his traits of being this tough guy and just being this iron-willed guy that will just stick with it until the end, he's never been somebody that's been like, dude, that guy is freakishly strong. No one's ever said that about him.
Yeah.
No one's ever kind of like attributed superhuman traits to him. But they do say that about somebody like an Anderson Silva, who he never fought, or a Yoel Romero. And then Robert Whittaker, I wouldn't necessarily say superhuman, but he's got definitely some great KO power, TKO power at the very least. And from my opinion, I think Dana White, for all the smoke and mirrors, I don't think he wants him to do that again at another weight class where he just wins the belt and he's like, oh, I got another one, guys. I got another one. Because I feel like that's what GSP is doing. And unfortunately, it's a little bit too transparent. I get that he wants legacy fights and stuff like that. But I think if you really want legacy, the only way to do that is at least get a couple defenses under your belt that shuts everybody up. You got these belts in those classes. You won it. You did it, and then you defended it. And I think that's the biggest thing. Everybody always says it's hard to get the belt, but it's even harder to defend the belt. And I think that's just such a maxim in the sport, especially with hardcore fans, where you have to satisfy not just winning the belt, but defending it a couple times. And especially when Bisping was kind of seen as this. I mean, I'll make no bones about it. I think he was a champion by a fluke. You know, he beat Luke Rockhold, but I think if they were to fight again, it would have looked more like the first fight. And I think if he were to fight Weidman, he would have lost that. I don't know if he would have. He might have beat Gastelum. Gastelum, I actually don't think deserves a title shot. Well, I'm getting way into this, but I think that Bisping was the easiest matchup, and I think for GSP to go down, it works out in his favor as a wrestler to fight somebody like Conor. I think Dana, for once, is very clear about that. You know, like he's like, okay, this guy's just going to wreck the division and leave. And especially if he beats his star guy, it's like, I'd rather have, if I was Dana White, I'd rather have, if I'm winning money fights, I'd rather have GSP fighting at welterweight. Way better. Because if he beats Conor, he now has one golden goose that's willing to just take off and say, oh, my legacy's done. I'm retiring now. He's at the end of his career. Conor McGregor, I think he's probably going to do 3 or 4 more fights. GSP's next fight might be his last. This is really long, just kind of tangent to say. Rant. I don't think GSP makes any sense whatsoever. If Conor wants to go up and go for that belt and fights in that division, I think that makes sense. But for the promotion, the UFC, as a money fight, it doesn't even make sense because it kills one of your – I mean, there just aren't that many stars right now that can break 1 million buys, and not even GSP himself. So you would rather have them spread across a couple divisions. I think it makes sense for Dana White to put that down. So I would, getting back to your original comment, Nate, Tony, not Max Holloway, maybe Max Holloway before GSP. I think GSP is the last on that queue. Conor needs to move up to 170 for that to happen.
Yeah. I wonder though what the most likely is. You know, what makes sense would be different than what's the most likely. I do agree that I think that Dana White is upset at GSP for what he did, but I also think that if that fight was going to come together and Conor came and said, I want to fight GSP, and GSP said, yes, I want this fight, I think Dana would still make the fight. I really do. I don't think much would stop him from doing that. Although I do think he's still
I think
upset.
It's shooting yourself in the foot because then one of your stars is out just like that.
Yeah, but it's a quick book.
Yeah, but you can, like, Conor's going to make that money basically, like, fighting no matter, with a broom. He's going to make that. And if you combine what they can do independently of each other, I think it's actually more than they would do together.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just because, I mean, if they have a couple more fights on a win streak, the maximum potential for what they can do is more than they can do together at this point. You know,
that probably is true. I would love to see the Max Holloway fight at some point. I'm just afraid that it won't happen for a couple of reasons. Obviously, Max Holloway is having some injury troubles, and hopefully he comes out of that, and hopefully they figure out what that is. But also, I don't think Conor's going to be around long enough for that fight to happen, which is just unfortunate because they met each other way too soon. Way too soon.
And Jeff Wagenheim, he put it really well one time. He said that Conor's not really a rearview mirror kind of guy.
No,
like,
that's a good point.
He's already beat you. He's probably not going to want to fight you again unless it's a Nate Diaz where there's literally a trilogy to solve.
Yeah, he lost to him once. So
he wants to solve that and say, no, I beat you twice.
Yeah.
So...
while we have a break in the action, give this a like and give it another share. Well, not another share. If you've shared it once, we'll let you off with that. But if you haven't shared it, go share it somewhere like Reddit or something.
I'll give you a break.
Yeah. Or share it twice. Why not? Ryan Mulligan. He said, I hope not, but I have a bad feeling about it in regards to Darren Till's weight cut. He also said, did you see Till's interview about with Helwani before his fight against Wonderboy? He went into detail about what he ate. He was in New York, boxes of donuts, Chipotle, pancakes, etc. He lives like a heavyweight.
Oh. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Did he for real say that? I have
remember
to see
that,
this interview now.
Yeah, I remember
I didn't
that.
see that one. And this was like a week out before the fight?
Nah, I don't think it was. I'm not sure, Ryan, you can correct me, but I believe it was a little bit before it, but he was kind of on holiday while just coming into camp, and he said that he was eating all this mad stuff.
Jesus, I don't know how I missed that one. Probably because I was in Liverpool for that fight, and I was probably just getting drunk the entire time. That was a fantastic experience being in Liverpool. Dude.
What was that atmosphere like, actually?
Dude, I've never seen anything like that here in America. Like, college sports can get kind of like that because, I mean, college sports is just insane here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real local. I mean, especially in the South, you'll see 80,000 people packing out, Tennessee.
These guys don't get paid.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. They don't get a dime from any of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's 80,000. I mean, they don't. I don't know the specifics, but they definitely get paid in one way or another. They work it out. But especially the star athletes, maybe not the ones at the bottom, but I mean, they got 80,000 people every single week there for a home game. Watching a Tennessee game. For instance, the Vols. But being there in Liverpool, it was just insane. And I hear they're like that for anything. I was actually kind of disappointed to hear it wasn't just a grassroots thing for necessarily Till. It was like they would do this for any game is kind of what I understood. That was kind of the vibe I got. And it helped that it was Till. He certainly is a star, but it was absolutely incredible, dude. I've never experienced anything like that live. It was and it was a small arena, dude. They made it feel like I was in an arena twice that size. The entire arena was vocally on their feet, and Ireland is probably the only other place that can hold a candle to that.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I'll take credit. No, I
mean, when you think of Conor fighting Brandao, dude.
I'll say this,
beat
right?
That.
I saw Conor versus Brandao live, and I saw Conor versus Aldo live. Conor versus Brandao was a way better atmosphere, which is insane to think about. Like, Conor versus Aldo should be a better atmosphere. It's in Las Vegas. It's for the title.
Yeah.
And Conor versus Brandao was when Conor wasn't 100% proven. Brandao was always kind of that teetering on the mid-card type guy. He was never really a contender. But the atmosphere for that fight in I think it's like an 11 to 12,000 arena versus what?
Right.
What's the MGM? About 16, 17,000, 18,000-ish?
Yeah, that's about right, yeah.
And the atmosphere was absolutely insane. Even the very first fight in the night was Paddy Houlihan making his UFC debut, I believe. And the atmosphere for that was just insane. It was insane. Like, you couldn't write, if you said in a book, or if you wrote like just the way that night went and just the results and how the crowd was, it was just like, it was weird. It was amazing. Something.
Yeah, that was the Irish invasion card of all cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that everybody basically won that night, right?
Yeah, everybody,
all the Irish guys,
including Gunnar Nelson, who isn't Irish, but we'll take him.
Even Daly won too, right? Essling Daly.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
she was on that.
I think that was on that card, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure she was, because
No,
I
I think
remember
she was-
everyone freaking out about her win. I
She
could be
was on
mixing it up with
the
another
second
one.
card, I think. I don't think she was on that one because I'm pretty
Okay.
sure she was in the Tough House during that one, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But she won on the second card, I think it was, and she came out the Zombie. Another song, Zombie.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ, that was insane. What else do we have? NB, if Max is good in quotation marks, I guess he means healthy.
Oh.
Is it possible that he headlines the Toronto card? Toronto card, I believe, is UFC 231, and that is on December 8th. It is currently without a main event. It barely has any fights. I think it's just Gilbert Burns versus Olivier Aubin-Mercier is the only fight on that card, so there's not been much announced for it. Do you think that maybe that could be the one that Max Holloway comes back? I'm a little bit skeptical about his health condition right now. He came out and he basically said, I don't know what happened, but I'm going to come back soon.
Yeah, I mean, God bless his optimism.
Yeah.
He is 100% like, oh, I'm fine. They haven't found anything. I'm like, that's not necessarily a good thing that they haven't found anything. I wouldn't just be like rejoicing about that. But yeah, like, I mean, if you want fodder for the GSP Conor fight, if Conor wins, and especially if Nate Diaz loses in November and they don't have a headliner, somewhere around that November time, I mean, that's all the fodder you need for a GSP Conor fight.
Yeah.
But personally, I think you couldn't put Holloway Ortiz, as great as that fight is. Maybe you could put it over Diaz-Poirier, just for the integrity of the title to put it there. But that's already been kind of established as the co-main. They still need a much bigger fight, and people are holding out hope for Jones. Fingers crossed. We'll see. I don't know how you top Diaz at this point. I just don't know how you do. So, I mean, I wouldn't put that fight over the Diaz-Poirier fight. So, I mean, December does make a lot of sense to put Max Holloway on there.
Yeah.
And that Ortiz fight has to happen. Oh, my God, that fight is so good.
MMA Fighting done a new kind of piece on their website. I haven't read it yet, so I don't really know what was said by each guy, but it's called something debate, I think it is. Something debate. Let me see if I can find it. I have it up here. Doesn't matter. It's something debate. They take a topic and they debate about it. The Great Divide, it's called. So they basically take a topic and then two writers will debate about it. This week was Sean Al-Shatti and Chuck Mindenhall, which is two of my favourite writers personally in MMA right now. And probably of all time. Two really good writers, especially Chuck.
I'm kidding.
But basically they were debating whether Nate Diaz should headline. Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier should headline that card, or should somebody go over that. Do you think that they could headline the card, or do you think that they still need something to go above them?
They need something explosive there. Like, they might be holding out hope for what happens with Woodley. I don't know. I mean, I could easily say Woodley saying he's not going to fight again for a while. But, they could try to throw somebody like Colby at him on that card. But, man, there's really not much that you can rate above that, and especially when headliner, because, I mean, it's like the marquee fight sells the pay-per-view. That's what people see. They say Diaz. They don't see the co-main event. They're not as invested in that. Because, I mean, that's what it's titled as, right? UFC 229, McGregor versus Nurmagomedov. That's what the marquee says. So that's what they're going to put up there as the biggest fight possible. It's going to be hard for them to do it over a title fight, but I honestly, wouldn't be mad at that. I think it would make the most sense. So it's going to have to be an explosively big fight. And honestly, aside from Jones or GSP fighting on it, I can't think of anything else that would go up there. I can't think, DC, I don't know anybody else that he could fight that would be big enough for that. And like we just said about Ortiz and Holloway, I don't think that makes sense. So that's a really tough one.
How likely is it that they'll come close to the event, they'll get like a month and a half out, and they'll panic and they'll just throw an interim title at it and put it as the main event? Nate versus Poirier.
Yeah, that would be so stupid.
Honestly,
so stupid.
That's not that unlikely. That could happen.
I mean, they've made some pretty bankrupt decisions in the past on that. Like the Holloway versus Pettis one was the worst one, because the day they announced that Aldo was the undisputed 145-pound champ, the same day they announced that he's not injured, he's totally fine, they're like, Holloway's going for the interim title against Pettis. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. That's the most bankrupt one, the most outright nonsensical interim title fight. And he wasn't even out for 6 months at that point. Aldo wasn't out at all. It just didn't make sense for those two at that point. So, it would be a new low. I would say that. It's not inconceivable, but it would be a new low. And I really hope that doesn't happen, that they just throw that as an interim title fight. That would just, it doesn't need it. It's stupid. It devalues your belts. It doesn't sell your pay-per-views more. The evidence suggests that it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. The only times it makes a difference is when it actually matters.
Yeah.
Like when Conor fought Mendes for the interim title. That made sense.
Yeah, we spoke about this before. Interim titles are fine. They're good. Yeah. They have a meaning. But they don't have any meaning anymore. Like, they should just come up with a different idea, like a trophy or something for like number one contenderships. It's like, remember like Pride used to, just give them trophies. Why not? Like, something else. Don't give them a belt, because it's not a belt. And I remember a Dana White scrum, I think, or an interview, whatever it was, and I'm pretty sure he spoke about the interim titles, and he basically said, it's just giving this guy a guaranteed title fight next. Then why are you giving him a belt? Don't give him a belt. Give him a contract or something.
Yeah, and then explain the Colby situation then. Because he doesn't have a title shot right now, and he turned down one date. Yeah. They could have just scheduled it for another time. It's not like there wasn't any other options. They could have made that the main event for UFC 229. They could have had another title fight, and it would have been one of the biggest ones ever. And Woodley's been there before. He would not be upset about being on the co-main of that card. Yeah. So, there is no perceived benefit to just slapping it on. Nothing that we can see from the outside. Maybe the UFC internally is seeing something different, but when you look at pay-per-view sales, they don't go up. It's not making a difference. So you devalue your belts and you just essentially just slap something on there. There's nothing perceivably that they gain from it. I don't understand it whatsoever.
Just give them like a giant contract. Remember like the giant checks that they'll do? Like, the novelty checks, but just giant contract. Right. And Dana White stands in front of it in the middle of the cage and they sign it. It's like, fighting with this guy. It's mad.
So dumb.
Raphael Schaefer said, actually, Ryan Mulligan, just a heads up, the video was put up on October 31st. Till fought Wonderboy in May. Now, if he was still eating like that 2 weeks out, good Lord. So, so the video, the interview when he was talking about eating bad was in October. The fight was in May.
So he was still prepping for like Cowboy or something then. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Raphael Schaefer. Guys, the crowd atmospheres in the Buenos Aires, I think that's Argentina, will probably be insane. And that's without a big star or a big fight. I don't know what the fight culture is in Argentina. Raphael, if you are from Argentina, that's awesome. Sorry for calling you Brazilian.
Schaefer.
I don't know what the fight atmosphere is like in Argentina, but the only Argentinian fighter I know is Ponzinibbio, right? Is that anyone I can think of?
I can't think of any other ones, to be honest with you. I really can't. I think generally when the UFC goes to a new market, it does extremely well because they're like, the UFC's coming in. They've never done that before. And typically after that, you kind of see after their second or third event what the climate's going to be like moving forward. So I think it'll be good no matter what, just because it's new.
El Chapo said the only time the Echo came to life, I guess, was Till. Paddy is a better buzz in the Echo. I assume he's talking about Paddy Pimblett. Do you know Paddy Pimblett fights for Cage Warriors?
Yeah, he's great.
The atmosphere for him in the Echo Arena is amazing as well. That's watching that is similar to like Conor in Dublin, I suppose, back in the day. It's insane. He's a big star over here. It's like Beatles and the Rolling Stones almost, with like Till being the Beatles and Pimblett being the Rolling Stones. More underground, but still, Yeah,
it's unfortunate with Pimblett because he's had those losses most recently. I think I'm trying to remember, did he get that one in his last fight? Because he basically got the robbery win over the guy that used to be on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And then he lost outright. And then
he also got
had
sick.
A win, I believe.
Remember he got sick after that fight in the middle of the cage? Oh, Jesus.
He was dead, dude.
Yeah, he beat Savidis in his last fight. Lost to Narami, who's now in the UFC, in a fight before that. And then the one before that was the Julian Erosa fight, which was a bit of a robbery, to be fair.
Yeah, that was a total robbery, dude. 100%. And I was rooting for him 100% because you watch all those fights and the crowd is just electric. And, you know, and you love seeing that. You know, like you love seeing a fighter with this groundswell of support and these people are just getting behind them. You want to see them do well. It's like seeing if your friend's in a local band or something like that, or you know, somebody's becoming this really, you know, good actor. You know, you feel for them. You know, you want to root for them. But in Patty's case, it just seems like maybe it was just too soon. I mean, it seemed like if he would have won that fight, that last fight, he would have, I think, clearly gone to the UFC. It still says that on his Twitter, by the way. Still says he's UFC bound. You know, he's still very much made that despite re-signing with Cage Warriors. Yeah. And it's interesting what he's had to say about Till, but yeah.
He's had some interesting comments. I remember the comment he made about not wanting to be on Till's undercard in Liverpool. He's like, I'm not doing that. He's like, Liverpool is my town, and if the UFC are coming here, I'm going to be the one to headline it. I'm not going to go on his undercard, which is, you know, it's some balls to have, you know, fighting for a regional promotion, which what it is. I love watching Cage Warriors, but that's what it is at this point, a regional promotion. Yeah. Some balls.
Best attitude is always to have, well, you know, once you've earned it, it's going to happen, you know. You just got to make it happen. Yeah. So the crowd support's already there. He's just got to make it happen.
Yeah. MMA buds, Horiguchi versus Tenshin, the only super fight that matters. Can you call it a super fight? Maybe, I suppose. But I love Tenshin and I love Horiguchi. Again, I wish it was MMA, although that might be more lopsided towards Horiguchi, just considering the grappling. I don't know. But still, that's an amazing fight. I can't wait for that.
Fantastic fight. It may be a bit of a stretch to say super fight.
Yeah, but it's a super fight.
Sure is. So super, dude. Neato.
Interesting one actually. MMA buds again. Chandler staying with Bellator and re-signing Vitaly Minikov, plus Bellator 206. I'm hyped for them. Yeah, so first things first, we'll talk about all the Bellator stuff here, I guess, and if anyone has any comments on it,
great.
Let us know. But Chandler signing with Bellator, good move. Would you like to see him in the UFC though?
I can't say my real thoughts on this. It would be explosive if I did, but I do know people that actually like work out at his gym because he set that up in Nashville recently. So he's actually in Nashville now with his gym. It's called Training Camp is what it's called. I pretty much knew a couple of months earlier that he wasn't going to. Like, I don't know when necessarily those kind of fell through, but basically my understanding is the UFC didn't give him nearly kind of what he wanted. But dude, I want to say so much more, but I literally can't. But it's like one of these kind of things where, Bellator is going to make the most sense. He's a rock star there. He's one of the few homegrown stars that they have, and he truly is a star, despite having some really low ratings on Paramount. I can't remember what the ratings were, but back when he last fought, I mean, it was just like abysmally low ratings. It was under like 300,000 or something like that. Yeah. Between 300 and 400,000, it was not good. But, I mean, there are so many things that could possibly lead to that. And that obviously didn't include DVR, which I think is really important with the young fan base that MMA is. Chandler is fantastic. It's one of their, again, few homegrown stars. I think it makes the most sense for him. It is a bummer not to see him in UFC competition, but I think he made the right choice for him.
I think that's the big thing. It seems like Bellator, especially considering who he is and how, like, I think he's a really important guy for Bellator, even though, as you said, he doesn't really get the huge ratings. I just think that if Bellator only have the likes of Chael Sonnen, the likes of Fedor, Fedor's not a UFC reject, and I wouldn't say Sonnen's really a UFC reject, but guys who come from different promotions like the UFC and not their own homegrown guys, they don't really have that many marquee homegrown guys. Maybe the Pitbull brothers, I guess, would be the ones that really stand out, and Lima maybe. But apart
MVP.
From that, MVP, but apart from those, and like there is more, but I mean the ones that really stand out, the ones that they promote a lot. There's not that many, and Chandler's probably their biggest one. So I think it's a good move for Bellator, good move for Chandler. But I really would have loved to see how he would have faced off against some of those UFC guys. I really would, because it seems like he's faced most people in Bellator now already. There's some guys there still, but it would have been fresh.
I mean, Bellator, it makes a lot of sense not to let him go. So I'm sure they paid him more.
They also signed Vitaly Minakov, or re-signed him. I believe they stripped him a while ago for inactivity. Then he went and he fought in Fight Nights Global, I think it was. I got like 7 wins there.
Yeah, I want to say he fought in KSW as well.
He fought in KSW?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay. But they signed him back. I think that's a big signing for them again.
Yeah, he's huge. I mean, he's got wins over guys like Volkov. He's got wins really recently, actually, over Bigfoot. He's got all kinds of wins. Let me see. So, Fight Nights Global. No, he never did fight in KSW. For some reason, I just assumed he would have fought there.
Yeah, you'd assume
but
so.
No, he never did. Yeah, you would assume so, being in that kind of region of the world. But yeah, I mean, Chuck Congo, that was the other kind of big name that he's beaten. So, I mean, yeah, undefeated, 21-0. It makes I remember just looking at this 2 weeks ago. I was like, when the hell is Minakov coming back to the U.S.? Because, I mean, it's one thing to be winning overseas and winning at home, but I think the real tests are still here. I mean, fighting Bigfoot Silva, he fought him back in June of last year. So his last fight was in December. So, yeah, that's right. So, I mean, the inactivity's not there. The name value, I guess, is kind of there in Bigfoot, but Bigfoot is done at this point, as far as I'm concerned. I think he should have already retired. It's one of these things where it makes a lot of sense for him to coming back to Bellator, and Bellator's heavyweight division has never been more interesting. And what they said is, what I believe Coker said is, they want him to have one fight and they want him to face the winner, maybe one fight. It's like kind of if he wants to type kind of thing, and then fight the winner of the heavyweight Grand Prix, which makes all the sense in the world because he's the champion who never lost. So, yeah, it makes tons of sense.
Yeah. So you'll have Chael Sonnen versus Vitaly Minakov down the road. They also, MMA Buzz also mentioned Bellator 206, which is that the Chael Sonnen card?
Bellator 206. I'm thinking that's the Mousasi Rory
Mousasi
McDonald card,
and McDonald card. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's at the end of this. At the end of September on DAZN, or however you say that.
DAZN, yeah.
Yeah, that's 206. Dude, yeah, and then you got the fourth fight between Vanderlei and Rampage.
Gosh.
Jesus. I mean, it's going to be a fun fight no matter how you see it.
You'll watch it.
I think, yeah, that's one of those fights I will see. It's not quite as bad as the Chuck Liddell fight. I think Vanderlei's close to that, but he hasn't been getting just totally washed in his last couple fights. Like, obviously, Chael Sonnen's not a knockout artist by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know that he's ever held the knockout, but yeah, I mean, he looked decent enough in that fight. He just kind of went up against the wrong style in Chael Sonnen in that match. So, I mean, it's not a great fight, but the real main event, the people's main event, is 100% Mousasi versus McDonald. And that's what actually, it's kind of unclear the base of the way that they've kind of, if you look at the poster, they've got Vanderlei and Rampage are huge in the poster, and then kind of a little bit, I mean, a good bit smaller, actually, like maybe 30% smaller is where you see Mousasi and Rory. But the bill says Mousasi versus McDonald at the top. So I don't know how they're technically promoting.
Bellator are probably like throwing out like different versions that like, which one do they like? Which one do they like? Let's go use that one.
Very much like, let's see what works here. Just throw it at a wall and see what sticks. So that's an incredible fight. That's a legitimate super fight between Mousasi and Rory. Like, you're talking about arguably the champions in their divisions right now. Like, if they were in the UFC, Mousasi absolutely could be the champion right now. And Rory has a definitive win. I mean, like, I went back and I actually watched this fight the other day. Rory's fight versus Woodley. And he beat him in every area. He beat him in the wrestling. He beat him in the striking. I mean, he was tuning up Woodley in that fight. And it's just incredible to see that he's made it over to Bellator and he's fighting Mousasi. I mean, they went to the safest organization they could both be in terms of competition goes. And obviously Rory would beg to differ on that, considering his last fight was just absolutely brutal against Lima. But it's one of these things where they went to arguably the safest organization they could possibly fight in, between the two. And then they pick the absolute toughest fight that either of them could probably, arguably be in the entire world. If they both could be UFC champions in the UFC right now against those existing champions, it's pretty incredible that they decided to go and opt for that. You know, it's not just about money. They legitimately are seeking actively probably the toughest fight that either of them could have at this point in time right now.
Also,
even if they were in the UFC.
Yeah, I completely agree. Also on the card, the start of the Bellator welterweight tournament, I guess. Douglas Lima and Andrei Koreshkov is on the card. Amazing fight.
Oh, that's a great fight too.
Aaron Pico is back, and what a prospect he is. And he faces Leandro Higa, who was 18-4, which is insane. 18-4. Aaron Pico only 3-1, but he's been beating guys with huge records. And I suppose he lost his first fight, but that guy is some prospect. Great card. Yeah, awesome card.
Speaking of flukes, that first fight I think kind of was for Pico. Underestimated his talent. Probably a bit of just that hype, those big lights, that kind of thing. I mean, easily their biggest card, Bellator NYC, easily their biggest card that they've had even to date. You know, maybe this next card will be bigger, but we'll see.
Ryan Mulligan would have been cool to see Minikoff in the heavyweight tournament. He'll probably fight the winner regardless. Would have been nice, you know, to see a heavyweight in the heavyweight tournament. But he probably will fight the winner, I guess.
Yeah, that is a shame, but it does look like he will fight the winner. That's what Coker's essentially said.
Rafael Schaefer, I don't know about fight culture specifically, but Argentinian crowds are notorious for amazing atmospheres. Notorious football fans, rock stars used to go to Argentina just for the crowds, apparently.
Wow. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
No idea either.
That's great.
I know a lot of rock bands go to South America in general, Brazil and I guess Argentina, and the crowds do be mental. It's like those, do you ever go onto YouTube and go like right in, I don't know, like Pearl Jam concert, and then it's like 200,000 people in just a big huge park. It's
my God, yeah.
It's like, wow, what the hell? It's like that, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, you hear about Brazil a lot. You hear about that, you know, just being a very vibrant music scene, but I've never really heard much about Argentina myself.
Yeah. Ryan Mulligan, Chandler should have been in the UFC a while ago, not to mention Brett Primus is holding that belt hostage right now. Yeah. Hopefully Chandler gets that title fight. I assume he will. But I really would have liked to see Chandler in that UFC division.
Yeah, very interesting kind of what happened with that fight. You know, it's very strange. So, yeah, that fight needs to happen.
Harry Dunn, have you already discussed John Jones only been tested once by USADA? Have you seen?
I'm confused by that. I don't understand why he was tested. Like, if he's not back, I mean, we've not heard any official ruling on him, so why is he being tested? Yeah. I'm not really sure I understand that.
I wonder what the rules are.
Anybody's explained it.
Yeah. The weird thing was, I remember seeing like a thing on Reddit, I think it was, that he hasn't been tested, and then a few days later, it was like John Jones has been tested once. So USADA is on Reddit, apparently, and they're keeping track of people. Oh shit, they're talking, quick, test them. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the rules are. Like, you know, he's out for whatever the ruling is. Should he still be tested? I assume so, but I don't know. Don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, it kind of defies logic. I mean, if you're suspended, then why are you being tested?
Yeah.
But then again, the idea is you're supposed to just resume action. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't totally. I guess it does kind of make a little bit of sense. So if the idea is, you know, we're still ruling on a case, but, you know, if they give him a year suspension, then he's back literally immediately. He can fight next month. He could fight in the October card. He could fight on the November card as soon as they rule, if it's only a year, as soon as they make a ruling on that. So,
yeah.
I guess it does make sense to be still testing him.
We'll go for a few more minutes and then we'll knock it on the head. So if you have any more questions, get them in quick and we'll try to answer them. MMA Buds said Machida is rumoured to be making stupid money in Bellator. He even denied UFC's offer to match. Yeah, I remember seeing that he was offered a deal by Bellator and he was like, yep, that sounds good, I'll take that. I just went. So I assume he was offered a lot of money.
I imagine he's worth a lot more to Bellator than he is the UFC because, frankly, you know, he's on the downturn of his career, but he's a big name. And he's somebody that still very, very, very talented. Still a very strong fighter, and could arguably be the champion there. Obviously, we've got. Is he going at 205 or 185? I don't remember what it was.
I think he said he wants to fight in both divisions.
Yeah, because 185 is obviously very tough with Mousasi.
But also big fights.
Yeah. They're more name value fights for sure at 205. Mousasi is a big name value fight, but that's the toughest fight he could possibly get, I think, if he goes over. So we'll see what happens there.
There's a few more questions there. We're going to get into them now, but I wanted to talk about really quickly. Did you see the UFC 229 poster?
Oh, yeah. Some people didn't like it, but I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I have it. I think I should have it on the screen now. Hopefully everybody can see it. But my big problem is like, doesn't Reebok, didn't they hire Boss Logic to do like t-shirts and stuff? I don't know why the UFC don't use him, or at least maybe he doesn't want to be hired to do posters by the UFC. He wants to do his own thing. Probably makes more money doing his own thing. But like, I have it on the screen now. I have the official poster, which is on the right, and the Boss Logic one, which is on the left. Clearly the Boss Logic one is a lot better.
There's a lot of comedy in his.
It's awesome.
I don't think it's. I mean, like using the bear and the gorilla is a bit on the nose,
But that's what we want.
I think he did that for comedic effect. I think he did that intentionally to be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously better. I mean,
it's visually
Boss Logic is incredibly good at what he does.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously Connor's naked, so there's a lot of humor in this. This is very cheeky. This is very much winking at the hardcore MMA fan base, because there's so much innuendo in here back to kind of like past references.
I suppose.
Of these
imagine
fighters.
if you were a casual viewer and you were like, what the hell? Are they fighting animals in this sport? What's going on?
Yeah, like, why the fuck is Connor naked? Because, I mean, I believe he's naked in this photo, and they took it from, what is it, the Sports Illustrated body issue? Yeah, so if you're a casual fan, you're like, why the fuck is he naked? You're like, why?
You know what, though? I know what I don't like about the official poster. Like, it's fine. It's not really a whole lot. I don't like the eyes. I don't like. I get what they're trying to do, but for me, it seems like they done the poster and they were like, okay, it's okay. We don't need to put too much promotion in it, but it's missing something. And then they were like, let's put the flags in their eyes. It's like, it just seems like a cheap kind of, let's add a bit of color to it, type thing. I preferred if the colors were in the background or something. I don't like the eyes. Honestly,
I'm a design guy. Like, my background is in graphic design, and clearly, far and away, Boss Logic is better. But from what I can tell, the only people who care are hardcore MMA fans.
Yeah.
Like, clean always wins. It always works. Like, you could have an incredible poster like what Boss Logic has, and I'm not denying that wouldn't be better if we weren't going for something like that. But I don't think a casual fan who's going to watch this at Buffalo Wild Wings, is trying to work his way up the spicy scale, gives a fuck about this poster. He's like,
wait.
Khabib and
Is
Tony
that
are
thing?
Fighting.
The spicy scale?
Yeah. Like, if you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, which is a national chain.
I've been in it once.
Literally. Yeah. Oh, you have been. Okay.
Well, it's when I went to Vegas, the night we arrived, we couldn't find anywhere, but there was a Buffalo Wild Wings open until like stupid o'clock, and we went in, and they tried to get us to buy tickets to watch the fight in there, and we're like, actually, we're from Ireland, we came over to go to the fight, and they're like, oh, cool. But yeah, I've been in that beautiful establishment before.
Yeah, that's incredible that you were there for all of that, especially 194 and being there for the Brandoff fight. That's incredible, by the way. But it's basically the scale is from mild to spicy. If you've ever seen that show, what is it, the chat show that they have on YouTube where they eat hot wings?
I actually watch that all the time. I watched that today.
Yeah.
Before we feast.
Yeah. First we feast.
We feast.
Yeah.
Close enough.
That's the name of the company, and the name of the show is Hot Ones.
Hot Ones, yeah.
Yeah. it's basically like that, but not quite that high. But that's the way their menu is drawn out. Like there's like a bottle that shows from mild to the spiciest, and they show all the UFC pay-per-views. But yeah, that's the casual fan is watching it at Buffalo Wild Wings with a bunch of their boys and getting drunk and trying to eat spicy wings. And not really. I mean, this is really a caricature, but they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, there's not a guy sitting there.
Only we do.
Yeah, there's not a guy sitting there in like a tap out t-shirt with like a glass of wine, looking at the poster, saying like, "No, it does nothing for me. It does nothing."
That is the irony. Basically, if you're wearing a tap out shirt, you probably are a casual fan.
Probably,
I don't think I've ever bought a UFC Reebok kit. I've never bought a fighter like t-shirt or anything like that. Like, I don't know why I just haven't. And I've never known any of my hardcore fans do. I used to watch it with big groups of like 20 people where we would get together and we would all watch the fights. Not a single one of them was wearing UFC t-shirts. I've never known any fight fans to do that.
Yeah. A few people gave their opinion on the posters in the chat, and if anybody else has an opinion, let us know. But Harry Dunn said unimpressed. I think he said with the UFC poster, the bear and the gorilla is way better. Boss Logic one is awesome. Yeah. The eyes are a bit weird on the official one. That's what Ryan Mulligan said. MMA Bud said UFC posters are pathetic. It's shameful to be a fan, to be honest. Do you see he went deep on that one?
Yeah.
Really cares about his graphics.
Very ashamed.
Yeah.
I mean, the eyes is kind of like this. It's kind of lazy.
Yeah.
The eyes. I mean, it's just like, okay, I get it, but it's not like they did it in a way where it's like. It's almost like, I mean, it's like somebody I just see in the comments laughing that it's hilarious that Connor's naked in the poster. That's almost like an Easter egg that you don't even realize at first, and it kind of like sets in after a while. You're like, oh shit, he's actually naked.
He's in the nip.
Whereas the eyes are just so on the nose that it's just like, okay, I see what you were going for here, but it just didn't quite get pulled off. It's just too obvious.
Yeah.
So.
There was also another poster that was released. I don't know if you've seen this one. It was the Bellator 208 poster. Did you see that one?
The Bellator 208 poster?
Yeah. Fedor versus Sonnen.
Oh, yeah. That's the real poster, right? Where
I think so, yeah.
Up like Apollo Creed.
Yeah. It should be on the screen now, I believe. I hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
what's your thoughts on that one?
I was thinking he should have just been wearing the shorts. He didn't need the American thing. I mean, he's the American gangster. I get it. And obviously, the Last Emperor, this Russian phenom and Fedor. I get the need to highlight because that's part of their personas. But it was a bit over the top. I think Chael honestly looks a bit silly wearing that. I mean, I don't care if he looks like Apollo Creed, and Apollo Creed's like a, movie icon, you know what I mean? So there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. I just think he looks kind of like, just doesn't work for me. I think it's a bit too much. Just put the shorts on him. Just go with that. Yeah. Just keep going with that analogy. It's too on the nose.
Yeah, it is a little bit on the nose, but at least they put some effort into it, I think. That's the only thing I appreciate with it. They went for it. They had an idea and they went for it. You know what I mean?
It went hardcore after that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's those. If anybody else has any, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say it is weird though that Chael is so decked out, and then it's like it actually looks like just almost maybe even a regular fight photo from Fedor.
Yeah.
Although he's wearing board shorts, which you don't normally see from him. So maybe it's not.
I wonder if they went to Fedor and they wanted to put him in more, like put a wig on him, like the Ivan Drago. I don't know.
Right.
It would have been hilarious. Yeah. But somebody, we posted that on Facebook and somebody said, Chael better not wish for something. Basically, you know what happened. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen Rocky 4.
Oh, right.
4. Yeah, you know what happened to Apollo Creed.
I mean, if you're getting spoiled by that at this point, then you just don't care about the Rocky movies, or you're just never going to watch it, Yeah. But you're talking about Apollo Creed dying, right?
Yeah, he
That's
died.
What you're talking about. Yeah. If somebody's mad at me for spoiling that, then fuck off.
They've been waiting for the perfect night. Movie. They've been just waiting.
They're like, what?
25 years.
Seriously. I feel like most of the people that decry, like, oh, dude, you spoiled this, are the people that have actually seen it, and they're worried that someone else has. And it's like, dude, Don't worry about it. You know what happened.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
One or two more things I want to talk about, and then I'll let you go. Did you see that Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes was announced for December 29th, UFC 232? What's your thoughts?
That's an amazing fight. You know, like, it's the best fight to make for, I think, either of them right now.
I think so,
we saw what Nunes did to Raquel Pennington. You know, obviously the famous controversy with Pennington saying she wanted to quit. You know, like, that's what Amanda Nunes is doing to her opponents. And then you look at somebody like Cyborg, who's just totally untested at this point. Not even Holly Holm. You know, and Holly Holm's kind of hit or miss, but I felt like Holly Holm was on her game that night. It was just, Cyborg is that damn good. And Cyborg even showed that she's not just brute strength. She's strategy too, and she employed a lot of that against Holly Holm. So I think when you're looking at just an incredible fight this is the best fight perhaps in women's MMA history. Like, so. Not just UFC, going back to Strikeforce, even Elite XC. I think it's the best that, you know, we've ever seen. Invicta, all that. I think it's perhaps the best women's fight ever. We'll see what happens, but on paper, it looks to be.
Yeah. It is one of the super fights. I mean, we say that thing again. That makes sense, you know, especially for Cyborg, because there's just nobody there for her to fight. And Amanda Nunes seems formidable. What are you laughing at?
Rafael Schaefer put, "What the fuck, Jason unsubscribed." I hope that is a response. I don't even know if I just haven't scrolled down. Yeah, that is. I hope that's a response to the Rocky reference. And I hope you're joking, but it just made me laugh because what the fuck, Jason unsubscribed.
He was waiting.
By the way, I'm not a part of this channel, so if anybody wants to unsubscribe, I'm kidding, of course. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah. Yeah, like, just don't be spoiling things like that, you know. It's a perfect night. Yeah.
Never seen the Rocky movies. Like,
yeah, it's a great fight. There was also one other thing. Oh yeah, Yair Rodriquez is out of UFC 228. Unfortunately, that's the bad news for today against Zabit Magomedsharipov or Sharipov. Close enough. John Lineker said he wanted to fight. He wanted to go up in weight and fight. What a crazy man. But it seems like the UFC aren't up for that one. But Zabit said that he would like that fight. First things first, thoughts on Yair pulling out, and then would you like to see that Lineker fight, or is that just too much? I
mean, I'm into it. Like, it's the irony of all ironies, though, because I mean, Yair basically got let go for like a week because he wouldn't take the Zabit fight. He wouldn't take it, so they basically let him go, and then they kind of like. I'm sure it was just a negotiation tactic, but, you know, they kind of changed their mind and they booked the fight. So it was like this kind of like tooth and nail type kind of drag out fight that they had about whether they were going to book this fight. And then it happens, and now Yair's actually injured for real. So it's a very strange, odd, sucky, shitty thing. So I think that the Lineker fight, in light of that, is a nice consolation prize because, I mean, it's kind of like this brawler versus, you know, technician kind of fight that we've, you know, talked about that other fights could be, like the Tony Pettis fight could be, or even if Paulo Costa were to go up against somebody, or Yoel was up to go against somebody. Like, it's a really great matchup if John Lineker is just this brute striker going after, brawling whoever he can, you know, really get his hands on, and then he's fighting just an insane tactician like Zabit. So I think it's a great consolation prize is what I think it is. I'm in for it.
I'm into it as well. It does seem like a huge weight differential. Zabit is really long, and Lineker is one of the shortest, kind of stumpiest. I wouldn't say stump. That's the wrong word, but you know,
very respectful of you to word it that way. Yeah.
John Lineker is a stump. No, but it does seem a little bit of a mismatch in size. But Lineker's a beast as well, so I wouldn't rule him out. But, you know, it seems a bit strange. Ryan Mulligan, next thing you know, Jason's going to tell us Vader is Luke's father. Oh, my God.
That's great. Yeah.
Any other spoilers from the 80s you want to say before we leave?
I don't want to be too much like Colby.
I
can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah. Watch Roadhouse. I don't know. That just kept in mind. I don't know why. That's us. There's one more question. Thoughts on Sichachi against Gregorian? To be honest, don't watch too much Glory, so I don't have too many opinions on that one. I'm not sure if you do.
Sorry, I just saw the question that Harry Dunn just posted. Are you guys wearing pants? I saw that Robert had some on, but not sure about Jason, and that totally hijacked my mind frame. Dick's hanging, my friend. I am not wearing anything south of the border right now, and it is a forest down there. No, dude, I am wearing pants. Of course I am. Great question. But what was your question? Let's jump back to that.
It was on
that's hilarious.
It was on the glory. I'll get to that question soon. How do you know I'm still wearing pants? Can you see? I don't know. I was.
That's true.
I was. It was about the, I think it was Glory 50 something. It's coming up. Or Glory 57. Sichachi. I'm getting that completely wrong. Against Gregorian. I don't watch too much Glory. I don't have time to watch a lot of kickboxing, so I don't have too many opinions on that. But seeing the preview for it the other day, it looks like it's going to be a great fight. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I used to follow it a bit more when you had the K1 stuff going on, like guys like Badr Hari, especially when he was fighting, Alistair Overeem, and you just had this. I mean, Badr Hari's been in some wars, man. I used to pay a whole lot more attention to that kind of stuff. But when it comes to what's going on, is Grigori, what is it? I can't even say. Is it Gregorian? Is he the guy that smokes Bigfoot, actually?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Impressive win.
I know he's one of the absolute best in the world, but I'll be honest, I don't really pay attention to it. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, then maybe there's a big fight. I'm as casual as it gets with kickboxing.
I'm exactly the same line. I love watching the fights, but I just can't follow it. It's like I used to follow football or soccer for you. Yeah, just going to fill you in there. But I just find it hard to even follow football that much anymore with all the MMA stuff going on. It's really, really difficult. We got a Russian question. I don't know if I can translate. Definitely can't. Can you?
Jesus.
Can you speak Russian? Is that Russian?
Yeah, I can speak it. He's saying, this is the best live chat I've ever seen in my life. You guys are dope. And I'm going to pay Robert's way to go see UFC 229.
Zag play. Oh, my God.
Zag play.
Such
Best
a
comment
nice
ever.
guy.
Thanks so much. I have no idea what the hell he said. Yeah.
Ryan Mulligan said he unfollowed Kobe for that very reason. The reason of giving spoilers away. I think a lot of people unfollowed Kobe for that. I think he got more hate for that than he did about everything else. The movie spoilers. People hated that.
It's a very strange thing because it's like the thing about Chill and the thing about Conor is they've always been good to their fans, or at least in most cases they have. Like, when Conor won the belt at UFC 189, the interim belt, he was like, I swear I done this for us. And he's crying in the cage and being very thankful to his fans. Colby, we've yet to see a moment like that. And he does the exact opposite. He punishes his followers for following him.
Yeah.
Chill was like a gentleman to anybody that wasn't his opponent, or if it was an interview that he decided he wanted to make headlines that day. Like On the Record, do you remember that guy? I can't remember. It's Michael something or whatever.
Michael
the Canadian
Landsberg.
Michael Landsberg, yeah, he had that flip out interview with him, or and then he lied about how he didn't say he padded. How he was going to say that if he beat Anderson Silva, he would pat Anderson Silva's wife's ass and say, "Make me dinner," And then he'd denied that and made this a big thing on ESPN, which was hilarious. But generally, he's good to his fans. Yeah. All the guys that talk a lot of shit are generally really good to their fans, and they're shitty to their opponents, or they're shitty to reporters or people that they kind of want to make headlines out of. But Kobe's just shitty to everybody. It's like he's playing it straight up pro wrestling. Yeah. It's like pro wrestling, they keep up the kayfabe, as it were. Kobe's probably the only one I've seen to just be fuck my fans. And I don't really get that strategy personally. And I think it's the reason why he hasn't caught on like the others have. Yeah. Maybe if he kept up the antics, but he was cool with his fans, and he still has a decent amount of fans. I just think he would have a lot more if he wasn't fuck my fans. Yeah. My fans are dumb.
Be
it's
good to
breaking your own TV. It's why would you, that's an asset. Why would you fuck with your own fans? Yeah. I don't get that.
I don't get it. Harry Dunn said that he can confirm that's what he said, what Zagplay said, because he speaks Khabib. Very nice. And thanks for that compliment and that gesture, Zagplay. I'll send you my address. And I'll send you my my IBAN and BIC bank details, after this chat. But Jason, thanks for coming on. I think we went a little bit longer than we usually would, but it was good. It was a lot of fun, and everybody check out MMA on Point because they do some great stuff. Check out Pride versus UFC, the music, and send them all your hate for your love of Face the Pain.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing these crazy opinion pieces. I need to chill out, but I'm very proud of that. If you like Face the Pain, fuck you. I'm kidding, but
I didn't say Face the Pain is great. I mean, the video was great. Very well done.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for we've had fantastic interaction this time. Probably the best interaction since I've been on the show. Yeah. So really, really good stuff today. Yeah.
So hopefully next week it'll be even better. So lads, you're gonna have to beat that one. Give this one a thumbs up and all that stuff, and share it again for the third time. Give it another share. Quick one before we leave. Raphael. First thing, Raphael. Are we going to call you Raphael or Raphael? Let us know. We'll
I'm
be nice.
with Raphael. I'm doing it no matter what.
Okay, so it doesn't matter for Jason.
It's a meme at this point.
Let me know. Roy Mulligan said he met Chael. Dude was super cool. Was wearing a shirt about the BJJ gym. BJJ gym I go to, and he talked to me about BJJ for a bit. Super nice guy. That's what I've heard. I heard Chael's a really nice guy. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, he was literally a politician, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Tweet us, Raphael, how you want us to address you, or at least how you want me to address you, because you're Raphael to Jason forever. Yeah, dude. Schaefer is Brazilian 100%. You could just tell. It's like, Schaefer, Silva. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. You're probably married to a Silva, or, you got some kin, Got some Anderson dos Schaefer. Makes sense. Yeah. That's great. Cheers, man. Junior Joe Schaefer. Raphael is fine. Nice. We'll leave it there. Sorry, just keep going.